me begin by apologizing. I'm very much the introvert, so this is something that's way out of my comfort zone. And I brought notes that I'll have to refer to from time to time just to keep the story going. Patti's, the idea behind Patti's was Patti Tullar's dream. It was something that she wanted to do. In '71, Patti and Bill Tullar, and Chip Tullar is my partner, and Patti was his mom. They lost everything in '71 in the Tullar earthquake in California. Bill had been in the insurance business. He opened the John Hancock office in the Valley, north of LA. They lost everything, and in a series of more setbacks in their lives, Bill found a job with the SBA. They had the disaster division, and he had a friend that worked there, and the friend got him a job with the SBA. It's now FEMA, but at the time in the 70s, mid 70s, it was a division of the SBA. So they had floods in Grand Rivers. They came to Grand Rivers. Bill fell in love with the area. That was before I-24 went in. They bought the motel, a little 6-unit motel. They thought they'd operate that in their retirement. Paid $19,000 for it. And people thought they were crazy, literally. But they landed in Grand Rivers and made it home. Patti operated the motel. The room rates were about $750 a night. It's a little fishing cottage. It's very, very, very rustic. And that building, that motel was underneath Patti's before it burned, but it's all gone now. Then about '76, Patti gets the wild hair and decides to open a restaurant. She wanted to call it Hamburger Patty's Ice Cream Parlor. So Bill hops on the phone and starts calling us in California. Chip and I lived in the suburb of Los Angeles in the Valley. So it took several phone calls to convince us to leave school, leave our jobs in California, and come back to Grand Rivers to help with the restaurant. But we did. Eventually, he got us on board. That was in early '77. In January '77, Chip moved to Grand Rivers. I had to finish school and sell the house. I got here in July of '77. So the restaurant started small. We had 20 seats. We started out in Patti's living room. It grew little by little, bit by bit, and transformed. By about, I think it was '84, we were starting to become a destination. Of course, like anyone starting out, we were working 12, 14, 18-hour days, 7 days a week. We never went anywhere and did anything but work. It's just a part of starting your own business. You're married to it. But it started to become a destination spot, and it slowly transformed from Hamburger Patty's Ice Cream Parlor, where we were serving sandwiches on deli paper and hand-dipped ice cream Sundays, to more of a dinner spot. So little by little, we started building a different clientele. You just listen to your customers, find out what they want, and give them more of what they want. That's what we learned. So that was what, about '84. By the middle '80s, Bill and Chip also worked for the government. I worked at Reed Crush Stone, and I was going to Murray. I graduated from Murray in '84 with a degree in accounting. Chip's degree is psychology. By the middle '80s, probably '83, '82, '83, something like that, Bill and Chip were both home from the government. They'd stopped traveling with the SBA, Disaster Division. They came home to help us run the restaurant. And Bill's really instrumental in building it, because what he would do is he had rose gardens. That was kind of his thing that he enjoyed doing. It's his relaxing diversion from work. But he would harvest his roses and take them around to different resorts in the area, in bud bases, and take brochures and also gift cards, little note cards, giving free meals to the desk clerks at the hotels. And that's the way he built the business, by tapping into the resorts around the region and getting the desk clerks to send people to us. And that's when Patti's really started to take off. Bill was kind of a promoter. He was definitely the PR person for us. Green Turtle Bay in Grand Rivers was a resort that had been designed before Lake Barkley was built. I think it's one of the few that had been designed ahead of the building of the dam. And it was called Port Kimbar for years and years. And then Bill Gary bought it in '84. And he said that the only way he would buy the resort is if we came over and opened a restaurant there in the restaurant facility that they had. So we opened Patti's on the pier, and it was there from '84 to '88. And we were tired of busting our rear ends and not making any money, so we closed it in '88. Chip, also in '84, had been approached by Wallace Wilkinson, not Wallace Wilkinson, I can't think of the man's name. A man from Glasgow, Kentucky, that had a French restaurant that had gone under, and it was in flight path of the airport in Glasgow. And so we opened Patti's of Glasgow. That was also there from '84 to '88. But what we learned from that experience is that we had spread ourselves so thin. We had Chip's brother Michael running the restaurant at Green Turtle Bay, Patti's on the pier, and Chip had moved to Glasgow to open that one. We spread ourselves too thin. You can grow too fast, you can grow too much. You can be not as conservative as you need to be. So that's one of the lessons we learned from that. Growth is good, but you've got to be able to control your growth and maintain your quality. And you've got to be smart about it. I mean, I don't think that the restaurant in Glasgow suffered because of the quality. I think it suffered because Glasgow wasn't going to provide the restaurant the kind of support it needed. Of course, how can you know that ahead of time? You can't. All you do is jump in, work hard. Action is always a good thing. You learn from your actions, but you cut your losses when you make mistakes, and you're going to make lots of mistakes. In business, trust me, lots of mistakes. But you just learn from them and adapt and change because of that. So we also bought the Iron Kettle at auction in Grand Rivers. And that was probably late '80s, early '90s maybe. It went up for auction, and we built that business up, and it was doing very well. We ate there twice a day. Now that building dated back to 1890, and it also had a fire. And so we lost it. It was completely gutted. Patti's wasn't completely gutted, but it was bad enough that the state made us take the whole building down. But with the Iron Kettle, it burned in 2008. It had been there 10 years longer than Patti's had been. So, I mean, it was the institution in town before Patti's came along. In our growth, we had taken advantage of opportunities when they came along. We were friends with the man that had a motel up on Interstate, a Microtel, and he offered it. We were talking, and we entered into a cooperative marketing agreement where we would try to promote him. He could use our name. He would try to send people to Grand Rivers. We could see the synergies there. So we entered into that marketing agreement. He gave us an option on the motel, and about 4 years after we signed the option, we went ahead and exercised it. And I don't have a date, don't remember how long, 3 months, maybe 8 years now, 5 years, something like that. He was very generous with us. He wanted to unload it. He wasn't his main business. His business was actually in Tennessee, and it was healthcare, is where he had made the majority of his money. So he didn't need it, didn't want it, and he offered it to us at a really good price when we exercised the option. He was just good as gold to us. We couldn't have asked for a better individual to have gone into business with. Then we had the bed and breakfast, Rose of the Lake, that had been started in '06, and it went to auction. Chip went to the auction for Rose of the Lake Bed and Breakfast. We were friends with Steve, the owner, and the auction was not going well. They stopped the auction, and when they restarted it, Chip thought, okay, Steve needs more money than that. He raised his hand, and we bought it. We didn't intend to buy it, so be careful what you do at auctions. So we now have a bed and breakfast, Rose of the Lake, and that's been a bit of a struggle as well, but we're getting there. Of course, we did have to fire. That was 2 years ago, February 5th. Some of the things we've learned from this fire is that if you're in business for yourself, your insurance, make sure you get replacement value insurance. If you have several properties, make sure that it's blanket coverage for the whole thing, so that if the coverage for a specific building isn't enough, some of the other coverage will kick in. And your insurance agent, just be sure you get a good insurance agent. One of the things we learned is that for us, if we'd had plans in hand when the building burned, it would have gone much faster. We'd have saved ourselves 8 or 9 months because it took us that long to design the new building. In the meantime, we had to maintain our staff and keep as many people on board as we possibly could for the reopening. So, we were burning through cash like crazy. The business interruption insurance we had was insufficient. We thought we had plenty. We had a huge amount, and we really thought that would cover us for however long we'd be down, but it wasn't enough. So go home and double your business interruption insurance. And that's the money that, double or triple, and that's the money that enables you to keep going while you're down, not rebuild, but the money to run your business. Have your plans in place. That's another thing we learned from the fire. Think about how much it costs you to run your business, and plan to be down for 3 years just in case. Because you just don't know what kind of obstacles you're going to run into. Another thing we learned is records. Your record keeping is really important. Knowing how much your building and all your equipment, all your supplies, everything that you have is worth, what you've spent on everything, both before the fire and after the fire. Because with replacement value, they're going to pay you for what you spend after the fire. But you also need to have those records to know what to submit as your application for funds reimbursement. So your record keeping is really, really important. Any questions? You probably got a bunch of things you can suggest they ask.
This may be a little bit of a respite for Mike, because he's been able to get away from the restaurant long enough to breathe a little bit, probably.
Well, I told my banker just the other day that I'll be able to breathe in about 5 years when I know we're going to be okay. I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Staffing's our big issue right now, and everybody's working so hard. The people that we get in, we're burning out because they're just working too hard.
Can you talk a little bit about how you thought about finding the employees that you have now?
Well, we used workforce development. They helped. They had helped us put on a couple of job fairs. Mostly our applications come in through Facebook. That's where the majority of them are coming from. Online applications.
Yeah. So do you have to interview each and every one of them?
Well, I don't interview. If you're going to work in the gift shops, the gift shop manager interviews. You're going to work in the front of the house, the dining room manager interviews. The kitchen managers interview.
Delegation.
I don't interview.
Delegation.
Well, the problem I run into is that if I hire someone and I force them on that department and that department manager, it's not someone they have hired themselves. So I really want them to hire their own people. Just let them make that determination that yes, this is the fit I'm looking for.
If you haven't been yet, which Mike's been how many times? Every other day?
Yesterday was number 4.
Yesterday was number 4. Okay, Mike's doing his job to make sure he contributes to the cash flow. I've been twice, but one of the new rooms is the presidential room. Is it fair to call it that? So share a little bit about what's in the presidential room. That's one of my favorite rooms.
We have friends. While we had sold the restaurant, not sold, we had turned restaurant management over to Chip's brother in about the year 2000, and we went into the real estate business. And one of our clients listed their home with us, and his home was on the lake in 1880's. It's my favorite home on the lake, my favorite home in Western Kentucky, most likely. But he had been a road builder, and he retired at 45 from building roads. But he had a collection of presidential documents, signed presidential documents. He had 33 of the 45 presidents. He had a hallway in his basement, and this collection lined that hallway. And Chip and I had always admired it. Well, they are now in their middle to late 80s, and they're getting more feeble, especially Betty. She's had several falls, and she's not doing well at all. But they wanted to start downsizing. They have 3 kids, but none of the kids were interested in this collection. It's a pretty extensive collection, 33 of the 45 presidents. But it starts with Jefferson and Madison. And the big room, we designed the one big room where this collection is for tour operators. We get a lot of tour buses in all through the year, not in one particular time. Maybe fall's the busiest time for them. And we designed this room to accommodate 110 people, and that would easily get in 2 motor coaches. They run anywhere from 48 to 52 people on a motor coach. But we wanted that collection for this room, and Bob and Betty's children weren't interested in the collection. So we came to terms to buy it. He actually was willing to finance it for us. And that's what's in this room. So we have everyone from Jefferson to Clinton. We don't go above Clinton. We don't have Obama. We have W.
Yeah, you
We have George W.
Yeah, I've never seen that. That's good. Yeah, Lincoln. One of my favorites.
And we have Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln.
So there are all kinds of documents. Some of them are just little handwritten notes. Some of them are maybe a postmaster's been appointed, or somebody's getting a promotion to general, something like that.
So as you were rebuilding, I made the comment earlier, I didn't think there was any way possible to have the same Patti's feel that the old building had, the new building, but it's there. So the floors are even, and, some of the things that I'm sure you wanted to change, you changed, but you've been able to keep the feel. Walk through some of that process of how you looked at, well, we had this, it would be more efficient if we did it this way, but we want to keep the feel that way. Just some of that.
Well, our kitchen is something that had grown little by little over the years in the existing building and additions. We went to Pat and Anita Kerr, a husband and wife team that are architects in Paducah. That's who the builder, Pinnacle, suggested we use, so we did. And they had laid out the building and they had laid out the kitchen envelope. So then we took that and took it down to Inman Design in Nashville. They are Inman Hospitality Design. They design restaurants, kitchens, as well as the dining areas, front of house and back of house. But they did a marvelous job of putting together the kitchen for us. We have some efficiencies in the kitchen because of that work. Now, capturing the character of the old Patties was kind of a challenge, but working with Pat and Anita Kerr, anytime we needed to pick out something, we knew we needed to go with cedar. The advantage of cedar is it's a soft wood, it's rough texture on the surface of it, and that helps absorb noises to help your dining experience be a little bit quieter. So we knew we needed to go back to cedar, and that's what we had. That's what we needed to go back with. I mean, that's what had made us successful. So why would you want to change it? Pat and Anita came in, they measured the rooms, and we tried to recreate each of those rooms more or less, you know, with the dimensions of the room, the heights of the ceilings, that kind of thing. Now, Patti's had lower ceilings. Anything that had been in the original motel had low ceilings, probably 8 feet, maybe 7, probably 7 feet. I don't know. They weren't very tall. But we have more that are vaulted now. We have more open. It's more open than it was before. And everyone has said they loved the new restaurant, but I had one lady that was in the hallway, and she said it's not as cozy as it used to be. So that was the only person I've had tell me anything negative about the new design.
I thought it was almost more cozy. We might have just got lucky though. Both times we went since you've been reopened, there's almost, I don't even know what you call it. It's almost like you're sitting in a gazebo and there's windows all around you.
That's the Robin's Nest. It is.
I've sat in that both times. I guess our party got lucky and got that. And we love it.
We
It
named
makes it
that
feel like
Robin's
you're
Nest.
the only one in the, even though there's other tables outside of it, you don't notice the way the room is shooting.
Yeah, Robin was our office manager, and she passed away a few months after the fire. So we named that room after her. But we had one private dining room before that just had one table, and it seated 8 to 10. That was the most requested room. So, you know, there again, you have to be customer centric. If that's what people want, your guests that come in want, that when we rebuilt, we decided, well, that's the most requested room. Let's give them more. So we have 4 of those little private dining rooms now. So, but you got to be customer centric. You got to know what your customers want.
So you talked about being a destination, right? So what type of marketing steps did you take in order to establish yourself?
Well, the customer base was growing organically from the early 80s on. And by 1990, we added on Mr. Bill's, a separate dining area. We had that's when we had a big addition to the kitchen. And what we found is that people didn't want that Bill's menu. They didn't want that experience. They wanted more Patti. So over the course of a couple of years, we transformed that dining area into another place. And to do that, we had to reconfigure the kitchen. But then we had all these people coming in, and you needed to provide them another reason to come. People were coming from long distances. You know, heck, Grand River is a very small community, 350 people. You know, we couldn't possibly support ourselves on the local community. And with the tourists coming in, we knew that we needed to provide them another reason to come. We have to, it's like field drinks, build it and they will come. So the billboard in Grand Rivers was welcome to historic Grand Rivers. And Grand Rivers does have a history behind it, but the history was all gone. So we thought, okay, let's try to bring some of that history in to tie in with that billboard that's up there. Grand Rivers was a boom town from 1890 to about 1925. The iron furnace that was there, and it was the center of commerce for the region. The train ran through town, but then in 1925, 26, something like that, when the iron furnace closed, Grand Rivers went through a horrible decline. So by the 70s, when we moved there, it was a rough, derelict little river town. But so the history was gone, whether it was storms or fires, all those wonderful commercial buildings that lined the railroad, the historic homes in town were gone except for a couple. So we were going to try to recreate that history. Now, before Thomas Lawson came to Grand Rivers in 1890, it was log cabins. We have a picture. He took pictures of the town as it was growing. And one of the pictures is old Grand Rivers, and it was log cabins. So we started moving cabins in as we could find them to try to bring that history back to life, and also to give people another reason to come.
Talk a little bit about your restaurant across the street.
Oh, T. Lawson's Grill. Yeah, that's celebrating Grand River's history and Mr. Lawson and his life and accomplishments. So it's more of a pub, more casual, entertainment, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Is it easier to manage than
Oh, much
Murray-Calloway?
easier. Much easier. Yeah.
So I assume that's your office being built right now?
That is the office coming in. Yeah.
Just like you do.
So we're going to expand the gift shop a little bit, because the gift shop's, that space connected to the restaurant was the most valuable retail space we had. That's where more of the people were. It's more sales per square foot, and the space that is there now wasn't nearly as large as the space we had. So we're building that addition to try to make that the same amount of square footage as closely as we can. And then the offices will be up above. Now the fire started in the offices, but the offices were over the kitchen before, and it was electrical. How the devil they pinpoint a junction box where that fire started when the whole wall's destroyed beyond me, but they did. So when we're rebuilding, we're putting the offices over the gift shops.
You have a question?
I was just gonna say, kind of on what you were saying earlier, when you were rebuilding, over the years, I know as you're piecing it together, rebuilding those got in the way of doing certain things. You have one thing in the restaurant now, you're like, okay, well, we're gonna do this. We've always wanted to do this. Now we're able to.
Redesigning the kitchen is huge, huge. I can't think of anything that really comes to mind. The one thing we did do is the original building, the original entrance was on the street. Now what we did do is the city asked us to get it off the street so that people aren't walking across the street all the time, getting in and out, especially when the buses come. You know, you've got these old people who, some of them are barely ambulatory, and they're crossing the street in a line, holding up traffic. It's dangerous for them. And so we did push the building back off the street. We have a driveway and handicap parking on the driveway. We now have golf cart parking in that same area because Grand Rivers is a golf cart friendly community. Other than that, I can't think of anything.
How did the Christmas decorations get started? You know, that's become.
Oh, that was early on. That was early on. We would be open for Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving we closed the doors at 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever time it was. And then we'd spend all night decorating for Christmas, and that was back in the 80s. That was probably 84, 85 when we started. And it just mushroomed, it just grew, like everything else at Patti's, it just grew organically. You start with an idea and you grow it out.
So was the person who was responsible for that in the rebuild excited or overwhelmed?
Oh, the decorator? Oh, they're fine. They're
It's-
good.
They were excited.
I bet they were.
Plain slate.
More territory.
Well, one of the things we did do is that we didn't have enough outlets for all the lights. So they have more outlets on the ceilings and along the top of the walls in the dining rooms and also on the outside of the building. So those are little things like that we were able to add in the rebuild, the design.
Now, when during the summer there was the food truck, I say food truck,
Right.
whatever the trailer that was set up.
We bought that here in Murray.
Did you really?
It was, first of all, it was good food and,
Yeah.
and very casual. I saw some of the.
We were doing what we could to survive.
Well,
We were doing what
well,
we could to bring in some money.
Well, I mean, my question really is, will that continue?
No.
It will not. What about the little?
We'd be lucky to have the staff to run the two restaurants.
What about the walk-up dessert place?
Yes, the ice cream stand will be there. Actually, the gift shop runs the ice cream stand.
Oh, okay.
So we opened T. Lawson's, the building across the street is T. Lawson's Grill. Those buildings, we've owned those buildings for years. We built one of them. But the little blue building was an antique shop. Linda Ray was getting older. She was in her 90s. She worked up until the last month of her life. And so she passed away. That building came over and we turned it into a gift shop. Then the other shop next door that we had built was so cool. She had been trying to retire for years. And we just weren't going to pay her the price for her inventory and take it over. So she, after the business went down and we didn't have the volumes of people in town that we've had in the past, she decided she'd go ahead and have a going out of business sale. So that building came open, so both of those were open in December, and the managers got the idea that, okay, let's convert these into another restaurant, and that will provide us a place to stay in business. have some money coming in, and also give us a training ground for people that go across the street to Patti's. And at the same time, we're going to get some new equipment in Patti's, so we got some of that new equipment in at T. Lawson's, so we can start playing with it and learning how it works. So it served a triple function for us. But yeah, the ice cream stand, I mean, the food truck is not something we feel like we can tackle at this point in time.
Well, T. Lawson really takes
Sure.
its place, serves its.
As soon as Lawson's opened, we closed it and moved everyone over to Lawson's.
We did a great job in doing what you had mentioned before, selling what customers want. And it is extremely hard for a company going through a disaster to bounce back. We've got a lot of businesses that we worked with back in the Great Ice Age. You all remember that, earlier in 2000. And if they're closed for, I can't remember the exact time, but if they're closed for like a week, chances they'll survive outside of 3 years plummet, something called the cash flow. And what Mike did was he generated cash flow through T-Laws, but he also kept his customer base. That's one of the hardest things is when customers don't stick with that business. Now, in the restaurant business, I'm not even important to say I understand all that, but you know the importance of when people get in a habit of coming to you, you don't want to break that habit. And creating that, we can still go to Grand Rivers, we can still eat, we can still get part of that
Go to the
experience.
shops, we got the shops open.
Still go to the shops, still have the experience. And that has been probably one of the largest successes for small business has been not trying to compete on price, but compete on experience. And creating and providing that experience has been awesome. No one would argue that there is no experience to be had at Patti's. And so Mike was able to keep that going, and keep that experience going, and that kept the customer base here so that when Patti's was up and running again, it continued to grow and it didn't die away.
I can't emphasize enough the gratitude I feel for our staff and what they've been through and the struggles and busting their rear ends. They are an inspiration to me.
Well, it speaks volumes to Patti's that there was one lady that was our waitress the first time back in November that was an employee before as well. And the fact that they wanted to continue to be there after a 2-year break speaks volumes to the atmosphere at Patti's. So you may be thankful for them, but they must be thankful for you as well.
Well, I am slowly coming into the role of being the person in charge. I've always been in the background, but I can see it falling to me to be the one person it's a daunting task. Who's going to be responsible for setting the culture of the place. And I kind of look forward to that. Betsy Flynn from CFSB is the president of the bank, and she has done such a good job with that bank, and I really hope I can fill the role of being the CEO as well as she has done. And CFSB is a family. CFSB has kept us in business. If not for them, we wouldn't be here.
She just recently announced her retirement.
She did.
And something that I was going to go off, he asked about the marketing efforts, how you made it a destination. I just wanted to point out your answer was pretty much that you worked hard for 40 or 50 years. It's not that you put something on Instagram or you did a billboard or you did some sort of a paid
Advertising is a
marketing.
waste of money. Spend that money on the customer experience, and they'll come back.
I just wanted to point that out because a lot of the younger generation, and I'm mid-30s, but I mean, I'm just saying, they all want to, man, what button did you click to make it successful? What money did you spend that made it
Be
what it is?
customer centric.
50 years of it too. 50 years of being 40-something years of being customer centric. So there was no get rich quick scheme happening over here at Patti's.
Just make sure that customer leaves as a raving fan.
So
Simple as that.
how long were you in the real estate business? You mentioned
We
that.
opened in 2001. one and closed, and we took the business back over from Chip's brother in 2014. So we closed it, and it took me a year to wind it down.
Yeah. And if you catch, you stated there were 350 people basically population of Grand Rivers. So
And we'll have 250 employees at height.
that's exactly where I was going. So if you think about the number of employees that he's going to be bringing on, Patty's going to hire in a community of 350. So there's 100 people out there who hopefully are running around getting ready to come work for you. But
They
that's
need
a-
help, send them our way.
That's a pretty high percentage. So if you think about the economic impact of what a business has in a community, there's a prime example of here is a community business that is giving jobs to the region. It's training folks in multiple areas, customer service, finance, etc. Some will stay, some won't. Those that stay will help grow the community. Those that won't will come back. And it's continuing to provide the customer experience that draws those dollars from outside inside. The economic impact from that business is tremendous. Every salary dollar that Patty's is paying out is going to stay in Grand Rivers and turn over about 3 times. So if you take that salary expense line item, triple it, that's how much money is running through Grand River. If you take that from the current level and increase that to 250, all of those salaries are going to multiply multiple times on that. And so not just, hey, we need to have a place to go eat those awesome pork chops, but the economic impact, not only Grand Rivers, but the region is tremendous, because you probably get a few people that come from outside.
The neighboring counties have told us they feel the impact of us being down.
Chris, don't forget the people who supply Patties and the economic impact they have there. Because they're paying bills for everything that they bring in, and that is supporting other businesses.
Exactly.
And so much of the money coming into Grand Rivers is from outside, not just the immediate area, but tourists that come in from 200 miles away or more.
Exactly.
As far as the economic impact, Bill and Sarah Minnihan that have the Magic Playhouse, he can explain, he knows what I'm about to say, but they operate that, and basically the
We work
reason
hand in hand.
the reason they have shows is 100% due to Patty's. The reason they're in business is because of them.
Interesting story there. Chip and I were in the real estate business. We had our first listing in Paducah. Friends of ours listed the home because they were going to move out on some acreage, and it was on Jefferson Avenue. And we were there taking the listing. Chip was in the front yard putting up the sign, and Bill and Sarah walked by. They said, we're trying to get into either the arcade or the Columbia Theater with this show that we're bringing from Branson. They had a show in Branson. They were coming from Savannah. But Sarah had family in Indiana. Bill was from Kansas. And they wanted to come from Savannah closer to home for the two of them. And Chip said, well, it wasn't going well with the arcade and the Columbia. So Chip said, well, let me go back to Grand Rivers and see what I can put together. So we got the city and the Economic Development Foundation that we had in town and the Tourism Commission to work together to build a theater for them. And it has been such a good thing for our community. Just gives me chills.
Yeah, well, something that he was saying, he's a good friend of mine, and he was, I don't know if people know how close he was to, just like many businesses in Grand Rivers, throwing in the towel. You go from filling up shows for months and months and months to not, all those tour buses that were going to see him usually drive right out of the parking lot, if not walk, to go watch the show. So that dried up instantly. 90% of their business went away overnight.
And that's one of the things that I hope to do in the future is partner more with businesses in the region. I hope to see more of that.
All right. Well, we've got, it's 8:15. And so for those who have to break, we're going to take a break. Mike, stick around for a few minutes. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it and wish you great success.
I didn't stumble too much.
You did a fabulous job, and we're all going to do our part to make sure that Patty's continues to be successful.
Thank you.
Mike's doing his part, so now he's set the bar high, and we all have at least 3 more times to be there to do it. But
You know anyone that wants to work in a restaurant and is not too afraid of traveling from Murray up our way, please send them to us. We need help so badly.
it's definitely a call. So Mike's going to stick around for a few minutes. We'll be pushing out some information for the next Innovate Caffeinate. Please be sure and sign up. Do we know who will be speaking?